Agent of Foxglove, Ingobnito by Lark Sabre. Read by Lark Sabre. Chapter 24. Monday Moonrise. It being November, the nights were drawing in. Therefore Hunter knew he wouldn't have to wait too long after tea time the following evening for Agent Wildflower to liberate him from the watchful gaze of his parents so he could make his rendezvous with the Godbers. He'd been at school all day, it also being a Monday in November, so if Agent Wildflower knew anything about human nippers, it would be unwise of her to leave fetching Hunter too long after tea, as he'd start getting crankier as the evening progressed. A cranky undercover agent would be liable to make rookie mistakes. After a filling traditional English supper of fish fingers, waffles, and baked beans, Hunter looked out the window expectantly. He wondered what Agent Wildflower's plan was, and hoped she wouldn't magically morph his family into something too freaky-deaky, or some form leaving them vulnerable to hazards humans don't usually have to worry about, whilst he was out moonlighting with F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E. He knew his work with the fairy spy agency was crucial to both the future thriving of fairy and humankind, but he couldn't help but feel a tad guilty. His family had to be subject to sorcerous incapacitation so he could go about his world-saving endeavours. Okay, Hunter, 10 more minutes playing on your tablet, and then it's up to the bath with F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E, instructed his mum. Holy hobgoblins, thought Hunter, glancing at an imaginary wristwatch, before remembering he didn't wear or own a watch, because he was a 7 3/4-year-old lad in 2025, and no 7 3/4-year-old lad in 2025 wore a wristwatch unless it was a smartwatch, but Hunter wasn't that spoiled. Agent Wildflower better get her skates on, or I'll be meeting Lefty and the others in my PJs. Do fairies even wear skates? I remember Uncle Telv used to sing some old heavy metal song about fairies wearing boots, but boots aren't quite the same thing as skates. They don't have wheels for a start. And if Agent Wildflower did wear skates, she'd be yelming along like Sonic's girlfriend, Amy Rose, the spiny pink speedster. That is, if her driving is any guide. As Hunter started absent-mindedly daydreaming about his dad's long-haired younger brother, Telvis Hobby, father of new cousin Zaid, who used to play guitar in a heavy metal band, the boy failed to notice a sudden cessation in the gentle background noise of family life, gentle at least in this period after tea and before the pandemonium of bath then bedtime. F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E was no longer chirruping and chattering along in the language of toddlerese or bugging Hunter, and his parents weren't exchanging quips about this or that meme as they relaxed with their smartphones before it was time for the action stations of the bedtime routine. Hunter felt something brush up against his foot. Must be the cat, he thought, looked down to give it a stroke. And it was a cat. No, not a cat, a kitten. And it wasn't his cat or kitten. The Hobby's actual pet was called F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E, and he had been Hunter's granddad's cat before his granddad passed away a few years ago. F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E was a cantankerous old ginger moggy that was only really indoors a handful of hours in the day. Hunter was old enough to vaguely recall F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E joining his family, and he would have a very clear recollection of his parents adopting any kittens more recently, no matter how preoccupied he had been with F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E duties. The kitten rubbing against Hunter's foot was a very cute, blue-eyed Siamese one, which would have meant its addition to the family was even more memorable. Where had it come from? Hunter looked around the living room and realized F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E and his parents were no longer there. But where his folks had been sitting, there were instead 2 more cats. Again, cats Hunter had never clapped eyes on before. One was a grey pedigree cat, large and stocky, with wolf-yellow eyes, like the contact lenses Michael Jackson wore on that Thriller dance video on YouTube. And curled up, where his mum had been sat, was a fluffy white Persian, its paw resting on the screen of his mum's phone. Leapfrogging leprechauns! Where's everybody gone? And where did these 3 cats appear from? They're not F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E.'s buddies. He doesn't have any buddies as far as I know. He's not even that friendly to us. Hang on, 3 cats? I think there's been some monkey business here. Fairy monkey business, to be precise. As if to confirm the developing acuteness of his detective skills, Hunter heard a fluttering sound above him. There, circling the lampshade, was a moth, except it was rather too cheerful in colour for a moth, being a pink moth, so maybe it was a butterfly, though what butterflies are nocturnal? Hunter realised instantly it wasn't a nocturnal butterfly or a pink moth, but Agent Wildflower in disguise. She had flown into the house through some gap or cranny, and magicked his parents and brother into 2 cats and a kitten, which he supposed were some of the more benign animals, vegetables, or minerals to transmogrify his family into. So in a sense, he should be grateful. And in a sense, he was. Though he hoped F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E didn't come looking for a cat fight. F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E was quite territorial. Hunter gently picked up the affectionate Siamese kitten, which he rightly presumed was once Jerup, and placed it between the two adult cats, Mr. Hobby the British Shorthair and Mrs. Hobby the White Persian. He then retrieved his much complimented $3.99 goblin mask, the Faban shades, the Hooter Huffer, a quality piece, and the borrowed, secretly tampered with F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E. He had stashed these by the wellies in the under the stairs cubbyhole earlier. The pink moth fluttered furiously after him before taking the lead, flying through the kitchen and landing atop the back door handle. Not a very subtle hint, Agent Wildflower, smiled Hunter to himself, and walked to the unlocked back door and let himself into the garden, the pink moth back in the air before it got squished by Hunter's grip on the door handle. It then bobbed up and down upon the currents of the parky November night breeze, following Hunter to the bottom of the garden, where it was enveloped by a familiar, shimmery pollen of fairy dust, and became, once more, Agent Stellar Wildflower. By the pearlescent, opalescent wings of opulent King Oberon, being a moth's not what it's cracked up to be, I couldn't even use my wand, what with moths not having hands, whinged Agent Wildflower, as she straightened up her bun and brushed down her pink suit of any lingering moth fuzz. How did you transform my family into a clouder of cats then, Agent Wildflower, if you couldn't use your wand? Inquired Hunter, who was already fairy size, as Agent Wildflower had shrunk him down before reverting back into her fairy form. Oh, I can telepathically use the wandy-talkie in your trouser pocket. Your average fairy can only use their own allotted wand, but us F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E agents are trained to be able to mentally hack into the magic of any nearby spell stick. Winged creatures are the only animals and insects us fairies can fully disguise ourselves as, what with the rule forbidding us from magically removing all vestige of our wings. There's nothing stopping us converting our wings into other types of wings. Hunter was learning something new about fairies and or goblins every day. It was a good job he'd remembered to carefully transfer, by touch alone, the wandy-talkie from his blue camo trousers to his black school uniform pair, with the crease down the front of each leg, the trousers he wore when he came home too, at least until bath time. He'd never have found the wandy-talkie if Mum had put it in the washing machine with his weekend attire. Hunter was unsurprisingly paranoid about losing the wandy-talkie, what with it being invisible and all. Anyway, at least my wings healed up, whether I'm a fairy or going incognito as a moth. Righto, let's get in the roadstool, and I'll get you to Braddock's Meadow in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. We don't want you to be late for the Mobolinos tonight of all nights. Dr. Nutkinstein set up an anti-F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E transmitter in the Damselfly City Bank, and the receiver's in your F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E. Once it's got the signal, it'll cause a dampening field in the immediate vicinity that'll fritz the rest of those Godbers' F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E enough for kablamo, an onslaught of fairy magic which will chase them away for good. Sounds like a plan, Agent Wildflower, but don't cast any spells that are too harsh on the goblins, eh? Nothing that's going to hurt them. I mean, you can see why they want to escape their lives in the sewers, pleaded Hunter, mindful of the fact that Lefty had a family just like Hunter did, and Hunter was wary enough of the spells cast on his own family. Don't go native on us, Agent Hobby, but rest assured us fairies will never employ our sorcery to do any other living creature permanent damage, unlike those failing, feasting Godbers, though I can't promise to transform them into pedigree kitty cats either. They need to be taught a lesson. I think Agent Wildflower might find Gooey Sigil suffered some permanent damage, reflected Hunter with surreptitious sarcasm. But I guess that was as much the fault of us humans as the fairies. If accidentally running little creatures over was a paid job, humans would be rogue killionaires. Hunter and Agent Wildflower got into the nearby roadstool, drove the insubstantial distance to the molehill to perform the drilly, spinning top maneuver, and were soon racing through the mole tunnels, leaving behind the Hobby Garden, which was bathed in moonlight as pearlescent and opalescent as the wings of opulent King Oberon.